Hey everyone, welcome back to Crimes, Curses, and Legends.
The podcast where we talk about the darkest stories the world has to offer, and occasionally question why we do this to ourselves emotionally.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Angie.
Tonight's episode is one that honestly left us both sitting in silence after researching it.
Which says a lot, because usually after research we're sending each other cursed memes at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Very true.
But this one is different.
Tonight, we're talking about the Bath school disaster.
The deadliest school massacre in American history.
And somehow, a lot of people have never even heard of it.
Which is kind of horrifying when you think about it.
Before we begin, we do want to give a disclaimer.
This episode contains discussions of violence, death, injury involving children, graphic descriptions of an explosion scene, and mass murder.
Please listen with care.
And also, we are absolutely going to mispronounce something.
Probably multiple things.
Michigan alone has enough impossible town names to humble anybody.
So, in advance, we apologize to historians, locals, descendants, teachers, and honestly, probably the entire state.
Especially if we accidentally pronounce something like a confused tourist using GPS for the first time.
Now, with that being said, let's go back to Bath, Michigan. Bath Township was, and still is, a small farming community located just outside Lansing, Michigan.
If you picture quiet dirt roads, neighbors who know each other, kids walking to school together, fields stretching for miles, that was Bath in the 1920s.
It was the kind of town where people left their doors unlocked.
Back when that sentence actually meant something, not "please rob me."
The population was tiny. Everybody knew everybody.
And if somebody sneezed too aggressively at church, the entire township knew before dinner.
The Bath Consolidated School was a pretty big deal for the community.
Before the school was built, kids in Bath attended smaller one-room schoolhouses scattered around the township.
But in 1922, the town voted to consolidate them into one larger modern school.
And that created problems almost immediately.
Because building a new school meant taxes.
And taxes are apparently humanity's universal villain.
Farmers were struggling financially in the 1920s.
Especially in rural Michigan.
Many families were barely surviving.
Crop prices were unstable, debt was common, and a lot of people were angry about the new tax burden.
One of those people was a man named Andrew Kehoe.
Andrew Philip Kehoe was born in 1872.
1872 sounds like a long fucking time ago. He grew up in Michigan and was considered intelligent, quiet, and mechanically skilled.
Which unfortunately becomes terrifying later.
Very.
People described him as disciplined and organized.
But also cold.
He reportedly had a temper.
And there were stories from people who knew him that painted him as controlling and resentful.
One story often repeatedly involved his stepmother.
According to reports, she was trying to light an oil stove when it exploded and caught her on fire.
And allegedly, Andrew stood there and watched for a moment before helping.
Now, historians still debate some details surrounding that story.
But regardless, it became part of the disturbing picture people later formed of him.
Andrew eventually married a woman named Nellie.
They lived on a farm in Bath Township.
And financially, they were struggling.
Which becomes important because Andrew blamed nearly everyone around him for his problems.
Especially taxes connected to the school.
He became deeply angry with the Bath School Board.
Ironically, he had actually served on that board.
Which is terrifying.
Because the people around him had no idea what he was capable of.
He was seen as grumpy, difficult, maybe even mean.
But not monstrous.
And that's one of the scariest parts of this whole story.
There wasn't some giant warning sign flashing over his head.
No evil movie soundtrack following him around.
No dramatic thunder every time he entered a room.
Although, based on this story, maybe there should have been.
Andrew became obsessed with explosives.
And in the 1920s, explosives were actually commonly used on farms.
Farmers used dynamite and blasting material to remove tree stumps and clear land.
So buying explosives didn't automatically raise suspicion.
Which allowed Andrew to slowly begin planning something horrific.
Months before the attack, Andrew began secretly wiring the Bath school with explosives.
And the horrifying part is how methodical he was.
He hid dynamite beneath the school. And because Andrew moved around the school as a board member and a handyman figure, nobody questioned him.
He had access.
People trusted him.
Meanwhile, his personal life was collapsing.
The farm was heading towards foreclosure.
His wife Nellie had been sick with tuberculosis.
Medical bills were expensive.
And Andrew's anger kept growing.
Instead of asking for help, instead of leaving, instead of dealing with his problems like literally every other struggling farmer in town, he chose revenge.
And he planned it carefully.
Authorities later discovered he had even set timers on some of the explosives.
Meaning this wasn't impulsive.
No, it was calculated.
Every detail.
Which honestly makes it even darker.
Because he wasn't acting in rage for 5 minutes.
He spent months deciding innocent children should die because he was angry at taxes and his personal failures.
And nobody around him knew.
Imagine living in a tiny town where everybody knows everybody. Meanwhile, one man is secretly turning the school into a bomb.
It's unimaginable. Wednesday,
May 18th, 1927.
It started quietly.
Around dawn, Andrew murdered his wife Nellie.
Her body would later be discovered on their farm.
He also killed several farm animals.
And then he set the farm buildings on fire.
At first, neighbors just thought it was a farmhouse fire.
People rushed to help.
Because that's what small towns do.
And while attention was focused there, children were sitting in class at the Bath Consolidated School.
At approximately 8:45 in the morning, the north wing of the school exploded.
The blast was catastrophic.
Walls collapsed instantly.
The roof caved in.
Windows shattered across the township.
Children and teachers were buried beneath bricks, steel, wood, and debris.
Survivors later described smoke, dust, screaming, and complete chaos.
Parents ran towards the school.
Imagine hearing an explosion from your house and then realizing your child is inside that building.
Rescue efforts began immediately.
Farmers, neighbors, teachers, and even older students started digging through the rubble with their bare hands.
People used shovels, ropes, ladders, anything they could find.
And while all this was happening, Andrew drove to the school.
Which somehow makes the story even more horrifying.
Because it wasn't over.
Andrew arrived in his truck packed with explosives and metal shrapnel.
Witnesses reported he called over Superintendent Emery Hike, and moments later, the truck exploded.
The blast killed Andrew instantly.
Good. But it also killed Superintendent Hike and several others nearby.
Including a child who had survived the first explosion.
Which is absolutely devastating.
In total, 45 people were killed.
Most of them children.
Dozens were injured.
And investigators later discovered something even more chilling.
Additional explosives had been planted beneath the south wing of the school.
But thankfully, they failed to detonate.
If they had gone off, the death toll could have been far worse.
Which is terrifying because the numbers are already unimaginable.
One of the hardest parts of researching this case is reading the names and stories of the children.
Because they weren't statistics.
They were kids who went to school expecting a normal Wednesday.
Some families lost more than one child.
Parents searched desperately through rubble, trying to find sons, daughters, brothers, and sisters.
Neighbors carried injured children away from the building, wrapped in coats and blankets.
One father reportedly spent hours helping with rescue efforts before discovering his own child had died.
I genuinely cannot imagine that kind of heartbreak.
There were teachers who died protecting students.
Community members who ran towards danger instead of away from it.
Doctors from surrounding towns rushed to Bath to help.
And remember, this was 1927.
There were no trauma helicopters.
No emergency alert systems.
No grief counselors waiting at the schools.
Just terrified parents, overwhelmed doctors, and a town trying to survive the worst morning imaginable.
Many of the injured children were taken to Sparrow Hospital in Lansing.
And witnesses described hallways overflowing with families searching for loved ones.
Some children were so covered in dust and blood that parents struggled to recognize them.
Which is one of the most heartbreaking details in this entire story.
One little girl named Bernice Sterling survived the initial explosion, but suffered devastating injuries.
And stories like hers were everywhere.
Children trapped under collapsed beams.
Students calling out to their classmates.
Teachers trying to calm terrified kids while injured themselves.
And what really gets me is how small Bath was.
Everybody knew each other.
This wasn't a city where tragedy could feel distant.
Every victim had a face people recognized.
Every funeral included neighbors, classmates, and friends.
And the funerals just kept happening.
That part destroyed me during research.
Because imagine being a parent in that town afterward.
Every house on your road grieving somebody.
Every classroom with empty seats.
And kids who survived suddenly having to process trauma before people even really understood PTSD.
Exactly.
Back then, people really didn't have language for psychological trauma the way we do now.
A lot of survivors simply carried those memories silently for the rest of their lives.
And some survivors later admitted they still remembered specific sounds decades later.
The explosion,
The screaming,
the collapse of the building.
which honestly feels haunting.
One survivor recalled seeing classmates disappear beneath debris in seconds.
And another described wandering through the smoke and dust, unable to figure out where the classroom walls had even gone.
It's the kind of trauma that changes the entire direction of someone's life.
And while researching this, I kept thinking about the parents.
Same.
Because there's no preparing for sending your child to school and then never seeing them again.
Schools are supposed to feel safe.
Especially in tiny farming towns in Michigan in the 1920s.
People trusted each other there.
Which makes Andrew's betrayal feel even more horrifying.
Because this wasn't a stranger attacking from outside the community.
This was someone who lived there.
Someone neighbors knew.
Someone children probably recognize walking around town.
And meanwhile, he was secretly planning mass murder for months.
That level of hatred is hard to comprehend.
One thing that stands out in old newspaper articles is how many stories focused on bravery.
Which honestly makes sense.
People need something to hold on to after that kind of horror.
Teachers shielding students.
Neighbors digging with their bare hands.
Parents refusing to stop searching through the rubble even after hours had passed.
And honestly, those people are the real story here.
Not Andrew Kehoe.
Exactly.
Because evil is loud.
But compassion showed up louder that day.
It did.
As rescue efforts continued, investigators began trying to understand what had actually happened.
At first, people genuinely thought it might have been a tragic accident.
Can you imagine thinking that it was an accident and then realizing that it was somebody you knew?
Absolutely.
Because a school exploding in the middle of rural Michigan sounded impossible.
But then they started finding wires.
And unexploded dynamite beneath the south wing of the school.
Which is absolutely horrifying.
Because the death toll could have been even worse.
Investigators discovered hundreds of pounds of explosives hidden underneath the building.
And they realized Andrew had spent months planting them there.
Months.
Which means there were probably days where children were literally sitting in classrooms directly above explosives without knowing it.
That thought alone is nightmare fuel.
Authorities also searched Andrew's farm.
And what they found painted the picture of someone filled with rage and resentment.
His wife Nellie's body was discovered in a wheelbarrow behind the house.
Which is just unbelievably cruel.
The farm had been rigged with devices.
Animals had been killed.
Buildings burned.
Investigators found a sign tied to the fence.
The sign read,
"Criminals are made, not born."
which feels like one final attempt to blame the world for his own actions.
Exactly.
Andrew made deliberate choices.
Repeatedly.
And innocent families paid the price for those choices.
There's also something deeply unsettling about how calm He reportedly appeared leading up to that attack,
Neighbors later said he acted mostly normal
which somehow makes it scarier.
because people want monsters to look obvious.
We want dramatic warning signs,
Thunderstorms every time they walk into a room,
villain music.
a suspiciously curled mustache.
Exactly.
But real evil usually looks ordinary.
And that's what makes the story linger with people.
Today, Bath Township is still there.
Quiet roads,
Families,
schools,
life continued, even after unimaginable loss.
and honestly, I think there's something powerful about that.
There's now a memorial honoring the victims of the Bath school disaster.
And part of the original school property still exists.
There's also a small museum preserving photographs, stories, and artifacts connected to the tragedy.
Which is important because this case deserves to be remembered,
Not sensationalized,
not reduced to headlines.
but remembered for the lives that were lost.
A lot of people have heard of tragedies like Columbine.
But many people still don't realize the deadliest school massacre in American history happened right here in Michigan.
Nearly 100 years ago,
And when you look at photos of Bath today, it's peaceful.
which almost feels surreal after learning this story.
But maybe that's part of the legacy.
What do you mean?
That despite what happened there, the town survived.
Yeah,
People rebuilt.
families kept going,
Children kept growing up there.
and Bath became more than its tragedy.
I think one of the reasons this case sticks with people is because it destroys the illusion that horror only happens in certain places.
Yeah, exactly.
Bath wasn't some giant city filled with crime.
It was a tiny farming community where people trusted each other.
And that's what makes the betrayal feel so personal.
There's also this overwhelming sadness hanging over the whole story.
Because the victims were mostly children.
Kids learning math and spelling and probably worrying about recess.
Meanwhile, one angry man decided their lives were disposable.
And there's no explanation that will ever make that understandable.
No amount of financial stress justifies it.
No resentment,
No anger.
nothing.
But I do think the way the community responded matters.
Absolutely.
Because even in the middle of horror, people ran towards the school to help.
Neighbors risked their lives for each other.
Teachers protected students.
Doctors worked nonstop.
Parents searched through rubble with their bare hands.
And honestly, that humanity matters just as much as the tragedy itself.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Crimes, Curses, and Legends.
And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with somebody who loves true crime, dark history, and mysterious stories.
And if there's a case, haunting, curse, or legend you want us to cover,
Send it our way.
preferably something slightly less emotionally devastating next time.
Honestly, though, knowing us,
We'll probably choose another horrifying historical tragedy.
that's fair.
Until next time,
Stay safe,
stay curious.
and maybe don't trust the guy stockpiling explosives while screaming about taxes.
Solid life advice.